welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. So you probably know what I'm on to talk about today. Well, I guess you saw the thumbnail on YouTube, or you saw the title if you're listening on the audio version, but we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about it. But before we do that, you know what time it is. Go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, and that notification bell so you know when the new episodes are coming out, and you can always be aware of when we drop content so you can stay with us and pretty much be a part of the team. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, we're available anywhere you get your audio podcast. Just type in the Format Podcast, search us out, and we should come right up. Also, please leave a comment, whether on your audio podcast platform or here on YouTube. All that stuff helps us to rise in the algorithm so we can find more sports fans and more sports fans can find us. Finally, if you can, please leave us that 5-star review. Again, helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us have success. I love doing this. It's a labor of love, but I also want to be successful at it. So help me out there if you like the content. And if you do like it, please go ahead and don't keep it to yourself. Share it with other sports fans you know. Okay, let's get right to it. Is Marcus Freeman in big trouble? Why would Marcus Freeman be in big trouble, you ask? Because unless you're living under a rock and you're a college football fan, you know that Marcus Freeman is the first head coach in the history of Notre Dame football to go 0-3 to start a career. That's 24 head coaches over 116 years of being the most storied program in this country and in the sport. So, obviously, we got to look at this a couple ways, right? So the first game was obviously the Fiesta Bowl loss against Oklahoma State last year. That was kind of weird. I don't know if you want to give it a pass or not. I'm not necessarily a give it a pass guy, but he gets put into a situation where he's basically thrust into the head coaching job. He's running all over the country between recruiting and obviously doing all the interviews and everything. Has half a staff, doesn't have all his key players, as you know, many teams don't during bowl season. Just gets put into a spot where, you know, it's kind of forgivable to some extent if he drops that game. But the crazy thing about that game, you wonder were there some head coaching snafus there due to inexperience, based on the fact that they were up, they being Notre Dame, 28-7 at halftime in that game, and then obviously ended up losing it. I think they only scored 7 more points in the second half of that football game. So you look at it and you say, that's a game they should have won, but with everything that was going on, odd situation, okay. Then you go into the season opener at Ohio State. Obviously, we talked about that last time. Got a lot of crazy storylines. Marcus Freeman being Ohio State alum. You have a first-time starting quarterback in that game. You have a team in Ohio State ranked number 2 in the country, which is obviously most people feel the best offensive team, most explosive in the country. Notre Dame obviously doesn't have the skill position talent to match up, but we saw them prepare. We saw them play extremely hard. We saw them keep that game a lot closer than many people thought it would be. But at the end of the day, another loss against an elite team, not good enough. So we say, okay, 0-2. We're still maybe giving Freeman a little bit of a break here. But then what? We now walk into Marcus Freeman's home debut, Notre Dame season opener at home against the Marshall Thundering Herd. Now, this is a decent program. That said, Notre Dame was a 20-point favorite at home. They end up losing 26-21. No excuse. I mean, Marshall has some talented players. They've got guys that transferred from high-level Division I programs and all that. So it's not like it used to be where you have mid-major programs that don't have nearly as much talent. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame was outplayed. They were outcoached. Congrats to the Thundering Herd. Congrats to Charlie Huff, who I just found out this morning doing research for this episode was actually on Nick Saban's staff for that 2020 college football playoff game where Alabama beat Notre Dame 31-14. So we know this guy Huff knows what he's doing. Clearly, he's coached at the quote unquote foot of the master, right? And Nick Saban, who's arguably the best college football coach of all time. So we know this guy can coach. We know he's got some talent on that team. But at the end of the day, no one in their right mind would have expected Marshall to go in and upset Notre Dame. Before I go a little further, quick side note, let me digress. Other than, I'll say, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, and Alabama, Has anyone besides me noticed that when everyone plays Notre Dame, especially at Notre Dame, it's their Super Bowl? Why do I say that? Everybody gets up to go into Notre Dame Stadium or to play Notre Dame for a chance to beat them. It's probably because of Notre Dame's historical lore, their place in the college football universe. Everyone does it. I saw at the end of the game yesterday, Marshall, at the end of game 2 of the college football season, literally gave a Gatorade bath to head coach Charles Huff because they beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Now, it was the first time the two programs have ever met in their history. And of course, it was at Notre Dame under the Golden Dome. But still, I mean, just think about that. You get a week 2 win and you Gatorade bath your coach because you beat Notre Dame. Just something to think about. Should tell you something about Notre Dame's place in the college football landscape. Now, back to Marcus Freeman. So he is now 0-3. Only head coach in Notre Dame history to start that way. And we got a lot of questions. Is this too much for him? How much rope does he have? Is the honeymoon over? I'd say clearly the honeymoon is over, because this is a game you were expected to win and win by a lot and kind of start righting the ship. Did he make the right selections on his staff? How is this going to affect recruiting? One of the things that, as Notre Dame people, Notre Dame fans, Notre Dame media, national college football media, one of the things, Notre Dame, the school itself, one of the things that it loved about Marcus Freeman was his youth, his energy, his vitality, his tireless work on the recruiting trail. Okay. And I mentioned this again last episode. Marcus Freeman had, and his staff, of course, had gotten Notre Dame to a point in the recruiting standings that I never thought Notre Dame would reach. They were at one point number 1. They may still be number 1, but number 1 for the 2023 class. We see them grabbing recruits for 2024 and 2025. They're recruiting at a level that we did not see under Brian Kelly. Now, the problem here is, okay, they're recruiting at a high level, but with the losses mounting, how is that going to affect recruiting? Is that going to make those high-end recruits, those 5 stars that we wouldn't normally get, are those guys going to back out and say, nah, I'm going to go somewhere else? We already saw the defensive lineman, defensive end, number 1 player in the country, I believe, number 1 defensive lineman, Keon Keeley. He had committed to Notre Dame. He decommitted and is now committed to Alabama. How much more of that are we going to end up seeing based on Notre Dame's success or lack thereof on the field this season? Marcus Freeman can recruit as well as he wants to, but if you're not winning, that's going to change some things in terms of who wants to come to the school and play football there. Now, he may be able to use the pitch of you guys being the new recruits. You guys can be the difference makers. You see that we're struggling on some levels, but if you come there and you join us, you can be the difference makers to bring Notre Dame back to prominence. You got to wonder how much was expected from Marcus Freeman. I think he's 36 or 37, first-time head coach. Now he's done a good job with it, surrounding himself with, outside of Tommy Rees, but really a lot of some quality experience. He brought back Harry Heastand to coach the offensive line, and we'll get to that shortly. He brought in Al Golden to coach the defense, which has played well. They have played well overall in their 2 games so far this season, but if the offense is not coming along, well, how long can the defense hang in there, right? So you're wondering, like, the decisions that Marcus Freeman is making, how are they playing out? You also got to wonder the in-game decisions that Marcus Freeman is or is not making. How's that working? What is the Notre Dame athletic department and president of the school? How much are they expecting from Marcus Freeman? It's my understanding that they were expecting him to, at the very least, maintain the level that Brian Kelly had set there in terms of 5 straight 10-win seasons. So it's not like he walked into a bare cupboard situation, 5 straight 10-win seasons, and then with his recruiting, the energy that he brings and the players that he's able to recruit to be able to get them over the top. Notre Dame is already competing for national championships. They've gone to 2 college football playoffs in the last 5 years, but the goal was for him to be able to be the guy to help to get them over the top by bringing in that top end talent. Can it happen as it looks right now? No, but we don't know. the modern sports media, the modern sports fan, we have a short attention span. We have, we don't allow guys too much time. Now, it says something that you're historically bad in terms of being a Notre Dame head coach to start a career, but does he deserve a little more leeway? Again, first time head coach, don't know. He's 0-3, he's getting blasted. I think maybe if this was Clemson this week and they lost to them, the 0-3 wouldn't look so bad, but it's Marshall. And again, you look at it, and it's no disrespect to Marshall, but you're thinking there's no way that Marshall should be coming in to Notre Dame Stadium and beating the Irish, not as 20-point underdogs, and basically not as being Marshall and being Notre Dame. Like, that's just not supposed to happen, but it did. So now you wonder, okay, you're going into Cal at home next week. What's that going to be? What happens if you lose there? You wonder, can Marcus, if the season remains bad, does Marcus Freeman make it through the season? And if he does make it through the season, let's say we have a Notre Dame has what, a 5, and let's say they have a 5-7, because right now anything looks possible in terms of a final record. Let's say they have 5-7, because we saw, I want to say 2016, the Irish went 4-8 under Brian Kelly, who has proven to be a winner everywhere he's gone, in all fairness to him. But let's say Marcus Freeman goes 500 or less than 500, snaps that streak of, 5 straight 10-win seasons, does not play well, the recruiting plummets. Do they keep him? Do they fire him after 1 year? I mean, who knows? Now you also have the elephant in the room. You have the racial component. Marcus Freeman, obviously African-American coach, not very many of those in big-time college football. He's also young. He's obviously, we know he's at one of the banner programs in the country. So you start asking yourself here, and it may be early for this, but based on the negative feedback that you're hearing from a lot of people, even though it's only 3 games in, you start wondering, would the negative feedback be the same if he was a white head coach? I don't know. Would he have a longer leash if he was a white head coach? On a historical level, not just at Notre Dame, but maybe at other places as well? The answer is likely yes. But you got to hope that Notre Dame is going to at least give him that second year to really get things going. Now, again, you want to hope that if you're a Notre Dame fan, even if you're a college football fan, because let's be real, when Notre Dame is great, college football is better. It's one of those programs. It's like in baseball, when the Yankees are great, baseball is better. In football, NFL, when the Cowboys are great, football is better. When the Celtics and the Lakers are great in the NBA, basketball is better. UCLA, Kentucky, Duke, when those programs are great, college basketball is better. There are certain programs that no matter what the sport, when they're at the top of their game, it elevates the entire sport, right? So when you have these banner programs like that, it does something. Okay, so now you say, how much time does Freeman have? How much rope does he have? Clearly, the honeymoon is over. He said during the press conference after the game yesterday, when he was asked what they have to look at to get better, he said everything. That's telling, and that's scary, because you wonder here, if he has to look at everything, can he see everything? Does he know even what he's looking for? How can you identify where the problem is? I can identify what the problem is looking from the outside. Obviously, I'm not a coach, but clearly there's no identity on offense. There's no identity on offense. You have, obviously, we talked about, you've got a young quarterback. He's only in his second year, Tyler Buckner. He may be hurt, so we don't know what the status is there. So far, he's got 2 touchdowns this year. Both of them are rushing. He has yet to throw a touchdown pass. So there's that, even though he's a talented guy. Tommy Rees is struggling in terms of calling the offense. It looks like just the skill play is lacking on the outside. Outside of Michael Mayer, who is one of the best tight ends in the country, where are the weapons? Notre Dame has hung their hat through the majority of the Brian Kelly tenure on dominant offensive line play and being able to rush the football. Harry Heastand is back. He was gone for about 4 years. He's back now, and he's the architect of some of Notre Dame's best offensive lines, sending a lot of guys to the league. Notre Dame had, they probably don't deserve it right now, the moniker O-line U, but they can't run the football effectively. I think they average like 2.5 yards a carry against Ohio State and a slightly better, but still not respectable 3.5 yards a carry against Marshall. So all this is problematic. Notre Dame can't run the ball effectively, right? Which means they can't sustain drive. They can't convert third and short situations. They can't throw the ball effectively, which means there's no over-the-top component to make defenses respect your passing game and not stack the box. So it's like, what are they going to do? I don't know necessarily how creative the play calling has been. And in that situation, what is that? Why isn't the play calling creative? Is it lack of talent? Is it opposition? We don't know, but we do know Notre Dame looks like they're in a heap of trouble, and we know Marcus Freeman looks like he's in a heap of trouble. Again, the guy, he knows resiliency. He's got a ton of energy. He played, albeit briefly, on the NFL level. He played for Ohio State, so we know the guy's talented. We know he's not going to quit, but is he just in a spot where it's too much for him, where the program that he is representing and head coaching is too much for him and he's too young and not as experienced as yet? I mean, you'll almost never see a 36, 37-year-old guy take over a program of this type of lineage and of this type of star power. It almost never happens. And so normally you see guys, you know, they'll come up, they'll get a mid-major head coaching job, they'll do well with that. Then they'll get a Power 5 job, they'll do well with that. And then they'll get one of the elite jobs. This is totally unusual. So where does the blame go? I guess it has to start at the top with Marcus Freeman. And so now you wonder, how much rope does he have? How long can he last? If Notre Dame continues to struggle, do they fire him? I wouldn't if it was me. I know obviously Brian Kelly has set a standard, but you've got to look at it. And if he can continue to bring in the recruits the way he has been doing, then you keep him there, because the recruits are going to be the ones that are going to make the difference. And then on top of that, maybe he makes some adjustments in his coaching staff. Who knows? But with recruits and a good coaching staff, and then he learns along the way in terms of what he needs to be doing, then who knows? But yeah, this is crazy. Notre Dame does not look good right now. Would not at all surprise me if they drop from number 8 all the way out of the top 25, because they don't look good. And next week is an opportunity again to get it back on track against Cal. Not necessarily an elite opponent at all, but they have to figure out something and figure it out quickly. And there seems to be a lot to figure out by Marcus Freeman's own words. You know, they have to evaluate everything. Tommy Rees, offensive coordinator, has to figure out some sort of offensive identity. Harry Heastand has to, and we know that gelling an offensive line and getting an offensive line to play how they should takes time. We saw last year it took them probably about half the season before they really started getting back into being that elite offensive line unit that Notre Dame is known for. So that's going to be another one. How long is it going to take for that to get together, for them to gel? Again, back to Tommy Rees. Where can they come up with some big plays in the passing game? Because there is some speed on the outside, but where can they come up with some big plays in the passing game to loosen things up at the line of scrimmage so that Notre Dame can get back to doing what they love to do, and that's running the football effectively, and at that point establishing some sort of identity on offense. Overall, the defense is playing fairly well, but maybe Al Golden needs to switch some things up in terms of being able to generate more pressure with the front four. Isaiah Foskey was a preseason All-American. Right now, he's only got 1 sack on the season. It's only been 2 games, but he's only got 1 sack. There's just so much to look at, so much to see, so much to go over. I really don't know what Jack Swarbrick is thinking right now. And again, you know, this is the nature of the sports media, knee-jerk reactions early on, you know, jumping the ship, etc. But it's only 3 games in to the Freeman era, but those 3 are all losses. And again, if it was just the first 2, you could understand that, but this loss yesterday to Marshall was bad. It was bad. So where is Marcus Freeman right now in terms of how the administration sees him? What plans does he have to make adjustments, whether X's and O's or whether motivationally? When is Notre Dame going to get back on track, and how is all this going to affect recruiting, which is probably his greatest weapon, because the recruiting is, again, what was supposed to take Notre Dame over the top. I know this episode has sound like I've just been throwing questions at you, and really I have been throwing questions because I have no idea what the answers are to these things. So right now I'm just kind of giving my thoughts and you know, just talking to you and trying to figure out where we are with all of this. But yeah, this is a tough one. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Please leave your comments in the comments section. Give me some idea of what's going on. What would you recommend on how we can make things better, how Marcus Freeman can improve, how Notre Dame can improve, what they need to do, how much rope you think Marcus Freeman has left, because clearly the honeymoon is over. All right. Thanks so much for listening. Enjoy your Sunday, and I'm out. Peace.